actually want to commend Ogun State for taking the initiative to have this conversation. Ogun State has many great things about it, actually. Certainly the proximity to Lagos, we can't stop talking about it, it's very, very important. The natural resources, the land and accessibility to the borders, and most importantly, in dealing with governments across Nigeria, Ogun State certainly has one of the best benches of talent around this governor. So the ingredients are there. The reality too is that Ogun State doesn't have money, and Ogun State is working within a federal government's construct where there's certain initiatives that need to be done that in truth, Ogun State itself doesn't control. Now, let me talk about the things that can be done, because even though Ogun State itself doesn't have money, that in itself is absolutely not a disabling factor. And I'll explain why I strongly believe this. With the environment that I've talked about, I can't stress enough what Nick said about having a plan. With that plan, you then need to have long-term investors. From a finance perspective, that includes a number of parties. You need to have the development finance agencies. You need to have the local banks working with you. And then you also need to have the PFAs are a very, very important constituent that you need to cultivate. I speak about the PFAs, the local banks, because I do think that the solutions for Africa begin with Africans, with us driving our agenda ourselves. Then we bring in the long-term partners. From a financing perspective, where we clarify and improve the risk-sharing element. Let me explain what I mean just from an agriculture perspective, for example. Along the agriculture chain, the state must be prepared to take risk at the lower end, providing the seeding, which it is doing, providing some of the basic infrastructure, and providing the skills training and the model farms, etc., that it has. It must do that, and it's a necessary evil. It also needs to talk to long-term investors. Like if we can structure the right products where the PFAs are attracted, the DFIs and working with the local banks can bring down the funding rate to make it viable projects for commercial institutions to come in. Commercial institutions will only come in if they can make money. And so we need to, the ingredients are really there. If we leverage on those parties, the other important party is the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. Two things about that fund. Let's look beyond the money it has itself. The body of people within that institution and the office that that institution commands means that there are lots of other sovereign wealth funds or institutions, for example, like the Public Investment Corporation of South Africa, who have dual investment objectives. They have one objective, which is to actually help create real economic growth and create some sort of strategic alliance for their government and to make money. So invariably, if we come up with very viable, solid structures for those people, they will come in. Also, one of the other panelists did mention about the fact that we need to have, I've lost my train of thought now, what he had, but let me stop there for now, and we can come back to it again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Iman. Ogun State is an interesting partner to have in this whole urban development story because it's Ogun State as government as we know it, and Ogun State as OPIC, the private sector arm that's also investing like a private investor for profit. So I'll turn it over to you first, government as government, Shegun. What kind of partner will investors and financiers have in Ogun State coming into urban development? What kind of partner can we expect?
Okay, thank you very much. We in Ogun State, we realize that we can't fund all these huge projects. So what we try to do is to see where the problems are and listen to the people and investors and try and create an enabling environment. Like for instance, during one of the meetings that we had in Abuja, we realized that the cost of getting COOs and getting a total package, surveys and stuff like that, was quite astronomical. In some states, it is like as high as 15%, including all the taxes. I went back, for instance, to the Digilands, and we were able to, the Digilands and we were able to work out a figure, of course, with the government's consent, to 3%. So what we have is that for government, for projects that we initiate, we offer to the public and to investors to process all their documents, including stamp duties and everything, at the cost of 3%, which is the lowest right now of all the states. That's number one. Then number two, another example is the Women's Charter, which has already taken off for a while, to enable people get their COOs. And that has been a successful outing. In addition to that, these new projects that we're initiating, we see these projects as long-term investments. So we're not eager or we're not ready to get a profit, as you might say, upfront or like a normal investor. What we want to do is to open up areas, and that is the way we look at it. So for instance, if an investor comes to us and says he wants to develop a parcel of land, a large parcel of land, then we work out a strategy that is friendly to him, that encourages him. That could be, not necessarily tax breaks, because we can offer those kind of tax breaks, but we can say, okay, don't pay for the land now, we will help you process your town planning documents and things like that. So we do try and listen to investors and hear what it is they're saying, and try and put ourselves in a position in which we can help them any way we can.
Okay. I'll just repeat that for the benefit of the audience. Breaking news directly from the government of Ogun State. Transaction costs for real estate at the lowest in Nigeria, 3%.
I would like to clarify this government feature in conjunction with the government.
It's government projects only. Okay. If you have questions, please write them down and hand them to the ushers. The questions will be beamed on the screens and answered at the end of the panel. And if you'd like to direct them to specific panelists, please say so when you write down your questions. Coming to you, Jimmy, where transaction costs will not be 3% because you are private. What kind of role will OPIC be playing in the urban development story in Ogun State? And I ask that in the context of Agbara Industrial Estate, which we were told early in the morning is the largest industrial estate in the whole continent of Africa. And you were saying to me earlier that less than 25% of it has been developed. What's the plan for Agbara? And how do we ensure that, but most people believe that Agbara is in Lagos State. So what are we doing to ensure that we are out there with the right visibility, with the right strategy to bring that project to life? And final thing, it's an omnibus question. Bearing in mind that in urban development, transport infrastructure is really one of the most critical issues. What's your transport strategy?
Thanks, Rami. The first place to start is to recognize that OPIC is a 30-year-old corporation. It was created by the founding fathers of Ogun State because they recognize the unique advantage Ogun has, both by virtue of being the gateway state and the resources that we control. Now, what previous administration tried to do was use OPIC as a vehicle to open up new, what you could call border cities. And typically what was done was just to basically put in the roads and then attract investors to come in there and put in their resources. But this administration recognized that is a limited view and it doesn't give you the maximum traction you need. So what we do now is to actually put critical resources to play in all these areas. Take for example Agbara. What we now do in Agbara is we don't just opening up the areas, we're actually investing in the infrastructure. As we speak, we're spending